Like I said, I wish to God I had thought of the costume quacker idea, the parody thing 25 years ago. Because when I think of all the licenses and the money we spent and on so many properties, you think you're saving money, right? Because you go, oh, well, I'm getting a cheaper license, but there's a reason that license doesn't cost as much. You're not doing what you need to for your brand. And I realize go big or go home. Even if I just did two licenses of A-list properties, might have been better than doing more of properties that are so-so, because if they don't sell well, it reflects on the whole line. So I really would have gone for top tier properties right out of the gate. And my God, if I'd thought of this parody thing, my God, what our company would have been back then. But it didn't come to us till later how to do it. After we designed them in a particular way for years and years, we started doing parody, it changed the look of it. It changed everything. But again, you don't know it until you do it the wrong way, then you figure out the right way, right?
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Founder. I am your host, Devin Miller, a serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7 and 8 figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Craig Wolfe. And Craig started his founding journey. He was originally doing sales in the cosmetic industry, and then switched over to doing selling animation art for things such as Mickey Mouse and Coca-Cola and other industries, and expanded into other brands before switching gears a bit and going over to his current business, which is Celebriducts, which he'll dive in and tell us a lot more about, and should make for a good discussion. So, with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Craig.
Great to be here. Always love chatting with you, Devin. Thank you, man.
Absolutely. And just as a quick reminder to the audience, if you didn't catch it, Craig was on a couple of our sister podcasts, both the Inventive Journey as well as the Inventive Expert. So definitely encourage you to go check out those episodes. But today we're going to focus a little bit more on the founding. And so kind of walk us through a little bit what you're doing before you got into Celebriducts. You were in cosmetics, you were in animation and art sales and those type of things. And so
Yeah,
give us a bit of an
yeah,
idea as to what preceded the Celebriducts.
yeah. So, I was, basically, I did start my little buying and selling original 1930s vintage Disney animation art. Loved it. Always very inspired by that original early Disney, and the beauty in those drawings inspired me. And that was my business. And eventually, I did have an epiphany moment when I was standing in front of a Macy's window, and they had all these old time Coke machines, the old ones from the 50s, the 40s, and the old time Coke bottles and glass and picnic baskets. And this is right when the Coke Bears were coming out and the commercials. And I had an epiphany. I go, well, Disney and Warner Brothers can market their animation art, the actual cells that they paint on, they photograph to make the cartoons. They were going for big dollar amounts. It was a big industry back then. I go, why doesn't Coca-Cola market the polar bears? The same way. I mean, they're fun. People love them. They were huge. And I called Coca-Cola, and they didn't know what I was talking about. I mean, no idea. And it took me a year for everyone to get convinced all the way up the chain that this was a project worth doing. And long story short, I did actually work with the studio who did the animation so he could get me the computer. Remember, these are done on computer. They're not the hand-painted ones that you can then sell the cells. These are in a computer. So you have to figure out how do you get it out of the computer at a high enough resolution, and then you market it. And it was never done before, Devin, basically. And I've always said I am not the smartest tool in the shed. Probably my greatest skill is I network well with people who know more than I do. That is really, if you want to talk about one semi-skill, that is it. More than aware of my liabilities, but I've always partnered up with really smart people to help me through it. So worked with a studio who actually did the animation.
So now you're doing that. It sounds like, I love the approach. Now today it's, kind of hey, kind of a duh, that makes sense, and it's a good approach, and it's there's selling of art all over the place and all the different icons and that. It sounds like you
Yeah,
found that at the right timing, and
yeah.
were able to seize an opportunity. Now you're doing all of that, and then you decide, okay, I'm going to ditch all of that. I'm going to go and sell plastic ducks. So walk us through a
Yeah,
little bit as to how you decided to
yeah.
transition or move over into selling celebrity ducks.
It's crazy because we were like the largest publisher in the country of artwork from television commercials because we didn't just stop at the bears. Remember, the Bud Frogs were coming out, the lizards, the M&M commercials were getting really bad. So I went to each locked up licenses with everybody. So we own that industry, and we were selling it. We were doing shows on Home Shopping Network. And we were the top selling art product in the Coke catalog. So it was great. It was a great run. But everything has a run, a timing. You always have to be innovating and moving. You can't be a one-hit wonder, one trick pony. You could even look at Disney animation art today. It's nothing what it was. That whole industry is nothing what it was. But it wasn't even just that. It was a friend at a party with too much alcohol who had this crazy idea of making rubber ducks that look like celebrities, which I've mentioned many times. I think 99.9% of people hearing that would go, I can't even conjure it up in my mind. Doesn't make sense. I could. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was really funny. And I did call King Features on the rights to Betty Boop. I said, I'd like to make a rubber duck of Betty Boop. I still kid Ita to this day about that. She was the head of licensing for King Features. She couldn't get me off the phone fast enough. Probably thought it was a crank call, but she's trying to be polite. Make your little duck. We'll get back to us. Goodbye. But I somehow found someone to make one overseas and got one to her. And I come in one morning means downstairs at my house because I always work out of the home. And in the office, there's a light blink, a message from Ita, got your little rubber duck. It's really cute. Let's talk. That was the beginning of duck number one, Celebrity Ducks.
Now, was this just out of curiosity, kind of as you're doing that? Was it, hey, we'll make a fun duck, we'll do it as, a gag or as a way to network or get in connection? Or was it, no, I'm going to build a legitimate business? You had the business plan and you're ready to invest and ready to take off, or kind of walk us through a little bit because,
Yeah.
There's a big difference.
Yeah. That's a great question. So the animation was still going. It wasn't totally dead. So I would do that. And this would be a little like a side hustle, as they say, and I did Groucho, Betty, then I added a few other properties, James Brown, Babe Ruth, other ones. And it was just moving along. And then I'm doing press releases, Devin. I always do everything by myself, pretty much. Sending them out, get books, stacks of books, mailing them out. Back then, it wasn't so much email. I'm mailing. And one day I get a call from the Atlantic City Press in Jersey. And they go, we got your little press release about your rubber ducks. They go, why should we do a story about you? I go, well, I'm from Jersey and I used to go to Atlantic City. They go, good enough. And that day, this is serendipity, right? They do an article on Celebrity Ducks. The vice president of the Philadelphia 76ers reads it. And it was in the Sunday edition, calls me up, says, we're always looking for cutting edge promotions. This, I think, is it. We want to do our superstar, Allen Iverson, as a rubber duck. And I always say, when we got done with that duck, with his cornrows and the tattoos, all tattoos on those little duck arms, I always say it looked more like him than he did. It came out fabulous. Next thing I know, this promotion was a huge hit. Yankees, the Cubs, they're all Gorton Seafood. They're all calling us, want to do these things. So I sold off the rest of the animation and we became all ducks. Never looked back.
Or just following up. So, was there a point? Because, starting to get traction, doing it as a side hustle versus saying, nope, I'm going to sell off what sounds like was, profitable or a good business and, doing the animations and that. How did you make that? Walk us through? Because I'm guessing, although maybe it wasn't just hey, I'm on a whim, I'm going to completely change industries. I'm going to abandon the business I built out and go over to Celebrity Duck. So kind of how did you make that decision as to when the timing is right, and how did you kind of shut down the previous business?
Well, I always say, let the business push you to the next moment. A lot of times people just, they leave their jobs, they leave this, they throw everything onto their new idea they think is so great. So your question is great. I always feel that's very foolish because you take such a risk giving what you have as your job. That's why I'm big into side hustles until the side hustle has proven itself, right? But when we did that, so I wasn't leaving the animation until the 76er thing happened. Because then we had so much happening, business coming in, that I realized now we can do it. Because now we're doing custom work for all these companies. And today we're actually considered the top custom duck manufacturer in the world. We do it for Barry Manilow, we do it for SeaWorld, for Zappos, I mean, Conan O'Brien. I mean, the custom duck division, which happened that day, expanded. So apart from the line of all our celebrities, we were doing custom work. So I knew that apart from the Groucho Marx, the Betty Boop, I had this other revenue stream. We'd be fine without the animation, Devin. I realized that we've proven the concept at this point.
Now, just out of curiosity, just to follow up on that, how did you shut down the business? Was it just one day you closed out the doors, fired everybody, said good luck, or did you sell it off, or did you, take it down, or kind of walk us through a little bit as to how you?
Well, there wasn't much firing, Devin, because I'm always a low overhead type of guy. So the business, believe it or not, you would never believe you'd become the leader in your industry in a one-person company. But we have been in all my companies because I outsource everything. That's my business model. That's why we're almost unbankruptable, because we don't take on offices. We don't take on tons of employees. We outsource to all these people in buildings and this and that. So we'll always be here like a cockroach, we'll always be here. So shutting it down was really not very hard. We had so much work coming in. I found somebody who wanted to buy the inventory I had. So I just sold it off at a reasonable price and let them just run with it. And I'll tell you something, Devin, I was happy to move away from it at that point because I could see, someone once told me the worst thing you can do is get in at the tail end of a fad. And I could tell that the animation with Disney and everything, and I was also marketing the California Raisins and Gumby and all those things. I could tell that they had peaked and were going the opposite direction. So I figured take the money, move into a whole new thing. And I realized the industry was never going to be the same again. It never has. It's basically dwindled into almost nothing. So it was very fortuitous that we jumped. And when we did, not only did it open up, but as we'll go on, you'll see that was only the beginning. That was only nothing compared to the moves that we were going to jump again and just expand beyond that first move.
No, makes sense. So now you make the jump, say, okay, wind down the other business, sell off the inventory, someone takes over. Now, just out of curiosity, what did happen to that? Did you ever follow up or keep track of what happened to that business for the person that bought out the inventory and take it over? Is it still going, or is it
some of my best friends? So my best friends, it was a man named Herb Barker. He was like family to me. He's in the promotional products industry. He had the Barker, in Cheshire, Connecticut. Wonderful man. And he and his family were like family. And he bought everything. And he and his wife, I must be like one of their extra children, we're just really close. And now they've since passed, but he bought everything. He has a museum gallery. It's famous in Cheshire, Connecticut. There's a whole Celebrity Ducks display there at this point. So he took it all over, and it's still there. I don't know how much they do with it at this point because Herb and his wife sadly passed on. But he just bought everything, every bit of inventory I had, and yeah, we still stay in touch because his son and I are close, and his daughter, friends to this day.
Awesome. It's always interesting to see kind of when to make an exit, what happens with the business and where it goes. And so now you make that exit, you say, okay, I'm all in on Celebrity Ducks. I've got some good traction, good indicators. Now, once you dived all in, was it just a rocket ship to the top, or more? You were selling more ducks and you knew what to do with, and money was raining down from the skies, or was it a slow build?
No, in the beginning, in the beginning, I mean, the custom work was big. You can tell Yankees, Conan O'Brien, SeaWorld. I mean, you could tell we're getting money from that, But, I'm picking properties like, the Mona Lisa, not to put down Da Vinci or anything. Love the painting. They're just not strong properties. The Three Stooges. I love the Three Stooges, but it's not like Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, Freddie Mercury, David Bowie. They're very different. And this is one of my, if you're ever going to ask me, my mistakes, I don't know, mistake or learning curve or how you want to say it. You don't know what you don't know. So you begin with what you think is creative and different and unique. And I was thrilled. I got a contract with James Brown. I loved it. And even James picked the color of his outfit. I mean, they were wonderful. Even had me draw up the contract, Evan, first time. I'm not even a lawyer, made up my own contract, for James Brown and everything. And it was very low key of those first sets of properties, Babe Ruth, not huge. So we're just and not only that, in the beginning, I wasn't making them so great. They were, I've never done this before. The manufacturer I found was making them too big and too hard, and they didn't float right. The kiss of death for a rubber duck. The only thing that was cute about them was they were kind of a character, but it wasn't our best work. If you look at some of the earliest visions of Mickey Mouse when he first began, when he was Mortimer Mouse, he looks like a rodent. You know what I mean? So you always want to come out of the gate already done it perfectly, but you don't. You evolve, you learn from your mistakes. And unfortunately, in those early days of Celebrity Ducks, my God, Devin, if I could go back in time with what I know now and what's happening in the company and have done it then. But what do they say? Hindsight is 2020. I only knew what I knew. So I was evolving the art form. In the beginning, no, it was not shaking down doors except for the custom part of it.
Now, how long did it take you to kind of figure out, it's kind of ironic, you think that a rubber duck is a rubber duck and everything is normal. And it sounds like there are things to figure out, everything from how do you customize it, the floating of it, the right amount of squishiness to it or whatever.
You have no idea, Devin. I can't believe you said that. If I had known how difficult it was to make a rubber duck, the squishiness, getting it to float, all the things, making them overseas, the painting, the details, why they can't make them in America. It's so much work. I never would have gotten into the business. My ignorance was what let me do it. I literally had no idea what I was getting into. I mean, I'm really grateful, don't get me wrong, but I had no idea how difficult it was to make a rubber duck. You're absolutely right about that. So it didn't.
I think that's indicative of, a lot of times, I think that if you didn't have that level of ignorance, most people would never get it. If you knew what you knew after you've been in the industry for a while, you'd never get into it in the first place. So it's probably a good thing that you had that ignorance. Now, as you got into it, now walk us through.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to start to figure these things out, and how did you?
I would say, Devin, you're going to laugh, probably a good 15 years. Yeah, it's not like we weren't selling ducks and doing tons of custom work and selling enough. We were a business. It wasn't it. It just wasn't it. And then the magic moment happened. I was watching the TV show Breaking Bad. Did you ever see that show?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking Bad. Oh, I loved it. I mean, I'm not in a meth or anything, but I thought it was done so well. It was one of the best TV series I thought I'd ever seen. And I remember talking to my wife. I said, well, why don't we do a parody, Breaking Bad? And we won't do any more of these licenses of properties that aren't really A-list. We'll do it like, he'll be making not blue meth, but little blue soaps in the shape of a duck. And he'll wear a hazmat suit. It'll be a little cute yellow. Anyway, on and on. We develop, working with lawyers, and make sure no trademark infringement and all that. And then one day my wife gets the paper. She goes, hey, look, they're coming out with another Jurassic Park. Oh, another Terminator movie's coming out. Why don't we continue this parody thing over? All I can tell you, Devin, the company changed overnight. And within 3 years, we must have done 60 ducks of properties, of parodies, of things that we call them costume quackers. It's like ducks dressed up to give you the feeling of a character. But it's a more popular character than, say, Groucho Marx or Betty Boop, who are great in their own right. But in today's generation and what people know and relate to, all the famous musicians and movie stars, it put us into a whole new realm. Because we used to do licensing. There was a license with Marilyn Monroe, Elvis Presley, James Dean. I had all these licenses. But, I didn't like the looks of them. And I really didn't want to keep doing licensing for so many reasons. But when we started doing these costume quackers, it was like a light bulb went off. And I'm telling you, you can imagine doing 60 because it takes like 3 to 6 months to do a duck. And now did 60 of them within 3 years. And now we're just cracking them out. We cannot keep up. Our factory's almost going day and night. We have 2 factories, plus our custom work and our duck. It changed the company overnight, Devin. So if you look at all those celebrity parodies we're doing now, we hit a nerve. I never would have believed it. And it's become huge for us. I mean, we now are making probably one of the top rubber duck companies in the world with all these celebrities that we're doing. And we really learned, without going to law school like you, I really had to school myself what we could do, could not do, trademark infringement laws about, what we could do, passing off laws in other countries, England, everyone. And so I had to school myself. I worked with the lawyers in the beginning, then I just took over myself. And to date, we just rolled, never really an issue everywhere. And when we do have an issue with someone, and we talk with the lawyers of different estates, they know the laws, they know what we're usually within our rights with the parodies. And if we make a slight adjustment here, there, everybody's happy. It's win-win, we never take the hard line. No, just because we're in our legal right, we're not doing it. If it doesn't matter to us, we'll make a little tweet of a name, a word, a packaging, a box. And I don't know, the company exploded when we did these custom quackers.
That's awesome. No, it sounds like it was definitely a great opportunity. Now, one of the questions that I would have anticipated, or maybe you thought of, or other people have asked, which is, it seems like there's only the size of the market for custom ducks would have been smaller than probably people would have thought, or it would have been bigger than people would have thought. People would have thought it's smaller. So how did you kind of take it from, hey, we'll do a few custom ducks for a few, projects, to making it into a full business, have to, a lot of manufacturing facilities, continue to expand and to grow? Where did you take it, or how did you kind of expand that marketplace? Or
yeah, you're gonna laugh. We don't advertise. We don't even have sales reps. We don't call people. People, if you put in custom rubber ducks, I think we come up on page 1 everywhere. People find us. Everyone from Barry Manilow to SeaWorld to all these teams, this, that, and the other thing, companies in Europe. I can't tell you how many, Conan O'Brien, companies find us because here's how I figured we'd beat China from knocking us off. They'll always make something cheaper, cheapen something. They tend to do that the least possible. I go, we'll make our stuff so detailed in gift boxes and gorgeous sculpting, and we'll leave no stone unturned. No amount of money will be left on the table to make these things exquisite in their detail. And no one has ever knocked us off. No one's ever done it. So if somebody wants, and not only that, there's no factory I know who will only run 1,000 ducks of a new design but us. Because they want to run, trying to run 2,000, 3,000. We're the only ones who do 1,000. So can you imagine? We're the only option for so many people. So we just have work nonstop come into us because we are the only option. No one will do our detail. We're the last rubber duck company in America because we're here. You do all our artwork and sculpting here. No one else does. And we also make our baby line, or the safest rubber ducks in the world, are PVC-free ones in Michigan. Those we can make here because we don't paint them. We put the colorant in the ducks. So if they want someone they can really trust, never miss a deadline, you can't miss a deadline with a big sports promotional giveaway. The trust factor. So they come to us, Devin. Our reputation precedes us. As far as we're good at what we do. The company's still just me, unfortunately. We haven't grown very much at the top. Just me here hanging out with the wife at the house, coming up with fun ideas. But we do have a crack crew, from shipping brokers to warehouse to artists. I mean, it is like a little SWAT team. So we're so nimble. We can move in a way that a big company probably could not.
No, that's awesome. And hey, I don't think there's any any drawback to. A lot of times, if you can run it on your own, the only person you have to answer to is yourself. You can make the decisions, and you get to live with them. You get it for better and for worse, but no one else you're accountable to no one else, and you can do what you think is best for the business. So it's gonna be a great place to be, and sounds like it's working well for you guys. So awesome. Well, now as we've kind of reached now the founding journey, kind of talk through it. Definitely is fun to hear kind of how you guys evolved and or went through things. I always like to wrap up each episode with one question. So for this podcast, I would like to ask, if you to go back to the the early days of the business when you're just getting started, what would be the one decision you'd make differently?
like I said, I wish to God I had thought of the custom quacker idea, the parody thing 25 years ago. Because when I think of all the licenses and money we spent and on so many properties, you think you're saving money, right? Because you go, oh, well, I'm getting a cheaper license, but you're also, there's a reason that license doesn't cost as much. You're not doing what you need to for your brand. And I realize go big or go home. Even if I just did 2 licenses of A-list properties, might have been better than doing more of properties that are so-so, because if they don't sell well, it reflects on the whole line. So I really would have gone for top tier properties right out of the gate. And my God, if I'd thought of this parody thing, my God, what our company would have been back then. But it didn't come to us till later how to do. After we designed them in a particular way for years and years, we started doing parody. It changed the look of it. It changed everything. But again, you don't know it until you do it the wrong way. Then you figure out the right way, right?
Yep, there's always that element of, hey, it'd be nice to have that crystal ball, know the things that you know now, and yet, the only way you get there is by making those mistakes. Otherwise, figuring things out and working towards success from there. So that's definitely, it sounds like a great place to be, and definitely a good thing to learn from the early on in the journey. So now with that, now if people want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
Well, we're a very big company, so you can call us on that phone number and it'll come right to my house and I'll answer the phone. We're a very big company. You would think that would be a really foolish thing to do, right? You're getting a billion calls, you do it, but I don't mind. And I don't get a million calls because a lot of people just like to email, but we put our phone number on the homepage on the top. No, you get right to me, leave a message, I'll call you back. That's how we've done business forever. And it's always worked. And I don't care how big your company is. If you're just a child doing a report on rubber duck for your school, it's all, or you can be SeaWorld. It's all the same to me. I treat people the same. My biggest customer is no different than my smallest one. So just give a call or go to the website, celebriducks.com. And the email's on there, the phone number's on there. You can look at all the ducks, read our story.
Oh, that's awesome. So definitely encourage people to reach out, support a great business. If nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again for coming on the podcast. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Now for all of you, the listeners are out there, if you can help us share these journeys and these founding journeys with even more startups and small businesses, just make sure to click share, subscribe, leave us a review. Helps us to reach even more startups and small businesses to help them along their journey to success. And on that note, if along your journey you ever need help with patents or trademarks or anything else with your startup or your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Craig, for coming on the podcast, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thank you so much, Devin. Always appreciate it, man.